My daughter's new boyfriend seemed oddly familiar until I pulled out my old college yearbook and realized he was the son of the man who destroyed my family. Story. It started at Sunday dinner 3 weeks ago. My daughter Ivy brought him home for the first time. His name was Colton, and he was polite, maybe too polite. He shook my hand, complimented the house, asked about my work, normal first meeting stuff, but something felt off. The way he held himself, the shape of his jaw, those green eyes that seemed to look right through me. I'd seen those eyes before. I just couldn't place where. Mom, you okay? Ivy asked. I'd been staring. Yeah. Sorry, just tired. I smiled and passed the potatoes. They'd met at university, both studying architecture, been dating for 4 months. I wanted to wait to introduce you, Ivy said. Make sure it was serious first. She looked at him with that expression, the one that said she was already in deep, already planning a future. Colton talked about his family, said his dad was in finance, his mom was a teacher, he had a younger sister. All very normal, very rehearsed. But when Ivy asked him to tell the story of how they met, he relaxed, became more natural, less careful, and that's when I saw it. A flash of someone else in his face, someone from a long time ago. After they left, I couldn't shake it. That nagging feeling like my subconscious was screaming at me, but I couldn't hear the words. I gave up around 10 p.m. and went to the attic, started pulling out boxes. Old photos, yearbooks, things I hadn't looked at in 20 years. I found my college yearbook buried under Christmas decorations. Flipped through the pages until I saw it. Page 47, a group photo from the business school mixer. And there, third from the left, was a face I'd spent 2 decades trying to forget. Preston Whitmore. Those same green eyes, that same jawline, that same way of holding himself. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my phone, Googled Preston Whitmore, found his LinkedIn, scrolled to the personal section. Married to Diane Whitmore. 2 children, Colton and Natalie. The room started spinning. My daughter was dating the son of the man who destroyed everything. The man who'd torn my family apart, who'd ruined my father, who'd walked away without consequences while we lost everything. And judging by how Colton had looked at me during dinner, studying my reactions, asking careful questions about my maiden name and where I grew up, I had a horrible feeling he knew exactly who I was. I sat in that attic until 3 a.m., staring at that yearbook photo, remembering everything I'd tried so hard to forget. 23 years ago, Preston Whitmore had been my father's business partner. They'd built a commercial real estate company together from nothing. Best friends since college. My dad trusted him completely. Then Preston embezzled $2.3 million, framed my father for it, testified against him in court. My dad went to prison for 6 years, while Preston walked away with the money and started a new firm. We lost our house, our savings, everything. My mom worked 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat. I was 14 when Dad went to prison, 17 when he got out. He was never the same after that. Prison broke something in him. He tried to fight the charges, tried to prove Preston had set him up. But Preston had been careful, had covered his tracks, made it look like my dad was the one who'd stolen from their clients. My dad died of a heart attack when I was 25. Stress, the doctor said. I knew better. Preston Whitmore had killed him. Just took 20 years to finish the job. And now his son was dating my daughter, sitting at my table, eating my food, looking at me with those eyes that were so much like his father's. The next morning, Ivy called. Mom, Colton really liked you. He wants to have dinner again next week. His parents want to meet me. Oh God, his parents. Preston and Diane, sitting across a table from me. Mom, you there? Yeah, sorry, that sounds nice. I hung up and immediately called my brother in Seattle. You need to sit down, I told him. Then I explained everything. Silence on the other end for a long time. Holy shit, he finally said. What are you going to do? I don't know. You have to tell her. She deserves to know. But what if she doesn't believe me? What if she thinks I'm trying to sabotage her relationship? She's dating the son of the man who sent our father to prison, my brother said, his voice hard. She needs to know. He was right. I knew he was right. On Thursday, Ivy texted, Colton's parents want to do dinner Saturday night. Can you make it? My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. Sure, what time? 7 Sound, their place. I'll send you the address. When the address came through, I looked it up. A massive house in the most expensive neighborhood in the city, built on my father's stolen money. Saturday arrived too fast. Ivy picked me up at 6:30. She was vibrating with excitement. You're going to love them, Mom. Built on blood money, I wanted to say. We pulled up at 6:55. The house was even bigger in person. Columns, circular driveway, perfectly manicured lawn. Everything my family's house had been before we lost it. Ivy rang the doorbell. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The door opened, and there he was. Preston Whitmore, 23 years older, gray at the temples, but unmistakably him. His eyes met mine, and I saw it. Recognition. He knew exactly who I was. Had probably known since Colton first mentioned Ivy's last name. You must be Amanda, he said smoothly, extending his hand. I'm Preston. So wonderful to finally meet you. I stared at his hand, the hand that had signed the documents that sent my father to prison. Ivy was looking at me, waiting. I forced myself to shake his hand. Nice to meet you, I managed. We went inside. Diane appeared, perfectly dressed, perfectly pleasant. She hugged Ivy like they were old friends. Colton emerged from the kitchen. When our eyes met, I saw something there. Something that confirmed my worst fears. He knew. He'd known all along. Dinner was torture. Preston talked about his business, his success, his achievements, all built on what he'd stolen from my father. So, Amanda, Preston said, cutting into his steak, Ivy mentioned you work in accounting. Have you always been in finance? The question wasn't innocent. He was testing me. I've had a few different careers, I said carefully. Life takes unexpected turns sometimes. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Indeed it does, though I've been fortunate. Built my company from the ground up. Started with nothing. The lie was so blatant, I almost laughed. Started with nothing. He'd started with $2.3 million stolen from his best friend. That must have been difficult, I said. I imagine you had to make some difficult choices along the way. His eyes narrowed slightly. Business requires tough decisions, sometimes. Finally, dessert ended. I excused myself to the bathroom. Needed a moment to breathe. I was washing my hands when Colton appeared in the hallway. Waiting. We should talk, he said quietly. I don't think there's anything to talk about. You know who my father is. I saw it on your face when you walked in. Does Ivy know? I asked. He shook his head. No, and I'd like to keep it that way. I bet you would. This whole thing, dating my daughter, is this some kind of game? Some kind of revenge? His face hardened. Revenge for what? Your father was the one who embezzled from their clients. My dad was the one who turned him in. The words hit like a physical blow. He actually believed it. Preston had fed him the same lies. That's not what happened, I said. Your father framed mine, stole the money, and made it look like my dad did it. That's not true, Colton said, but there was something in his voice. A waiver. My father went to prison for 6 years for something he didn't do, I continued, my voice shaking. We lost everything. My dad died at 52 from the stress. Your father killed him. My father is a good man, Colton said, but he didn't sound convinced anymore. He built his business on money he stole from his best friend, I interrupted. From my father, who trusted him. Colton stared at me, and I saw it, the first crack in his certainty. I don't believe you, he said, but his voice was quiet, uncertain. Then ask him, I said. Look him in the eye, and ask him if he framed my father. I walked back to the living room. Preston looked up, saw my face, saw Colton behind me. He knew something had shifted. I think I need to go, I said to Ivy. Monday morning, I sent Colton an email. We need to talk, alone. I have things you need to see. He responded within an hour. Coffee shop on 5th, Tuesday at 2. I got there early. Brought the file, everything I'd kept from the trial. Bank statements, court documents, emails, timeline of the embezzlement. He walked in looking younger in the daylight, more uncertain. We sat. I slid the file across the table. Everything's in here. Read it, then decide what you believe. He opened the file and started reading. His face went pale as he went through page after page. Financial records showing Preston moving money. Emails discussing the frame-up. Witness statements. This can't be real, he finally said, but his voice was shaking. It's all real, I said. Your father stole $2.3 million, set up accounts in my father's name, made it look like Dad was the embezzler. Then he testified against him in court. Colton was crying now. Actual tears running down his face. Why are you showing me this? Because you deserve to know the truth, I said. And because my daughter deserves better than to be caught in the middle of our family's history. Does she know? I shook my head. Not yet. That's up to you. He sat there for a long time. Reading, rereading, checking dates. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. I want you to decide who you are, I said. Are you your father's son, or are you your own person? I love Ivy, he said quietly. I know you do, which is why this is so hard. What happens now? I stood up. That's up to you. You can pretend you never saw this, or you can confront your father. But either way, Ivy needs to know. 2 days passed. No word from Colton. On Thursday, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Colton, eyes red from crying, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I confronted him, he said, showed him the documents, demanded the truth, and he admitted it. My legs went weak. 23 years, and now Preston's own son had gotten him to confess. What exactly did he say? Colton came inside. He said your father was too soft, too ethical. So Preston started skimming, set up the offshore accounts in your father's name. When your father started investigating, Preston had to make sure he took the fall. I felt tears streaming down my face. He said he's regretted it every day, but there was no way to fix it now. He asked me to let it go. And what did you say? I said I needed time to think. Then I left. He looked at me. I told Ivy everything. My heart stopped. How did she react? She's upset, angry, confused. She wants to talk to you. Did you know? I asked. When you started dating her, did you know who she was? He shook his head. Not at first. It wasn't until a few weeks in. Ivy mentioned your maiden name, where you grew up. I asked my dad casually, saw the look on his face. That's when I knew. And you kept dating her anyway. I was going to end it, he said, but I'd already fallen for her. An hour later, Ivy arrived. Her face was blotchy from crying. Why didn't you tell me? She demanded. When you realized who Colton was, would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have thought I was making it up? She didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. Colton showed me the file, she said, and his father really did it. Really destroyed Grandpa. She started crying. How am I supposed to process this? I pulled her into a hug. 3 days later, Colton called me. My mother knows everything now. She's devastated. Had no idea what Dad had done. She wants to meet with you. So I agreed. Met Diane at a quiet restaurant. She looked smaller somehow. Eyes red. I didn't know, were the first words out of her mouth. I swear to you, I had no idea. Did you ever question it? I asked. Did you ever wonder why we lost everything while you suddenly had money for a new house, new cars, private schools? She looked down. I convinced myself Preston was just better at business. I didn't want to look too closely because I liked our life. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back my father, I said. I know, she whispered, but I want to make it right. I filed for divorce. And I'm going to the police. I'm telling them everything. I stared at her. You'd testify against your own husband? He's not the man I thought he was, she said. And your father deserves justice, even if it's 23 years too late. 2 months later, Preston Whitmore was arrested, charged with embezzlement, fraud, and perjury. My father's conviction was overturned posthumously. Didn't bring him back, but it cleared his name. Preston's trial lasted 6 weeks. Diane testified against him. So did Colton. So did I. The jury found him guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Colton and Ivy broke up, not because they didn't love each other, but because the weight of their family's history was too much. Colton moved to another city, started over somewhere new. Ivy graduated, started her own architecture firm, threw herself into building something honest. 5 years after Preston went to prison, I got a letter from Colton. He'd moved to Portland, met someone new, was getting married. I think about Ivy every day, he wrote, about what we could have had, but I understand why it couldn't work. I showed the letter to Ivy. She read it twice and smiled sadly. I hope he's happy too, she said. He deserved better than the father he got. Preston serves his sentence in the same prison where my father spent 6 years. I like to think there's some justice in that. Sometimes I visit my dad's grave, tell him how it ended, how we finally won, how Preston finally faced consequences. I like to think he knows that wherever he is, he finally has peace.